Sigma males are the outliers, the ones who never follow the script yet somehow always command attention without even trying. They're not rebels for the sake of rebellion. They're architects of their own code. Men who refuse to let society define how they should think, live, or lead. While everyone else plays the same game, they quietly redesign the board. They walk into a room and don't compete for validation. They set the tone. Their silence feels louder than words. Their calm feels dangerous, and their authenticity demands respect. The irony? The very rules they break are what make others crave their approval. Because people sense it, the confidence of someone who doesn't need permission to exist. This video dives into the deep psychology of why Sigma males defy norms, challenge systems, and still earn respect from the very world they refuse to belong to. Subscribe for more insights into the Sigma mindset, self-mastery, and controlled power. And tell me in the comments, do you follow the rules or quietly rewrite them? They follow principles, not protocols. Sigma males don't live by rules, they live by codes. While most people learn early to obey, to fit in, to follow the invisible lines that society draws, the Sigma quietly begins to erase them. He doesn't rebel with noise or defiance. He simply chooses a path that makes sense to his inner compass, not to anyone else's expectations. Rules tell others how to act, but principles tell him who to be. And that's a far more dangerous kind of power. He's not reckless. He doesn't break rules just to prove he can. Every move he makes is deliberate, almost surgical. Where others look for permission, he looks for alignment. His decisions are shaped by logic and integrity, not convenience or fear of judgment. That's why his actions often confuse people, because they can't predict someone who isn't seeking approval. A Sigma doesn't ask, "What should I do?" He asks, "What's right for me, even if it costs me everything?" This way of living demands a rare kind of courage. It means standing alone when it would be easier to blend in. It means walking away from comfort when it compromises authenticity. It means saying no to shortcuts, trends, and temptations that promise easy validation. The Sigma knows that the moment you live by other people's standards, you give them the power to define you, and he refuses to hand over that control. Over time, this unshakable loyalty to his principles becomes his quiet dominance. People may not always agree with him, but they respect him, because deep down, everyone admires a man who stands firm in a world of constant compromise. His consistency becomes his credibility, his discipline becomes his dominance, and his silence when others try to pull him into conformity becomes the loudest statement of all. In a world obsessed with being liked, the Sigma male chooses to be true. And that's why, even when he breaks the rules, he never loses respect. Because he's not fighting against the system, he's building something purer, stronger, and far more enduring, a life that answers only to his own principles. They question every system before participating. Sigma males are born observers in a world that demands blind obedience. Where others rush to fit in, they pause, quietly watching, analyzing, and dissecting how everything works before deciding if it's worth their time. They don't accept rules as truth just because they're written in bold. To them, every system, whether it's social, political, or emotional, is just another structure built by flawed humans trying to make sense of chaos. And before they join it, the Sigma needs to know, does this system serve integrity or conformity? From an early age, he sees what others ignore, the subtle hypocrisy in authority, the unspoken rules that reward obedience, not brilliance, the way people trade authenticity for acceptance. While most learn to play along, the Sigma starts to distance himself, realizing that not every game deserves to be played. He studies the moves, the motives, and the manipulation, and then decides if it's worth stepping onto the board at all. This questioning mind is what separates him from the crowd. He doesn't seek to destroy the system. He seeks to understand it so deeply that he becomes immune to it. That's why he's hard to control. Before anyone can influence him, he's already deconstructed their logic and found the weak spots. People often mistake his silence for passivity, not realizing it's analysis and progress. By the time others realize what he's doing, he's already 2 steps ahead. Detached, informed, and unshakable. The Sigma male's defiance is never loud, it's intellectual. He doesn't need to shout his rebellion, he proves it by choosing where his energy flows. If something feels fake, he walks away. If a rule contradicts his values, he ignores it. And if a system tries to own him, he breaks it quietly. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. In the end, this is what makes him so rare. He's not against society, he's just unwilling to lose himself inside it. The world respects him because he doesn't follow blindly. He participates consciously. And in an age where everyone's desperate to belong, the Sigma's refusal to surrender his judgment is the ultimate act of freedom. They don't fear isolation, they use it as leverage. For most people, solitude feels like punishment. For the Sigma male, it's a laboratory, the place where his power takes shape. When life grows loud and everyone else seeks validation from noise, he retreats into silence. But that silence isn't emptiness. It's strategy. It's where he processes, plans, and rebuilds himself without interference. While others panic at the thought of being alone, he sees isolation as a rare currency, one that buys clarity, control, and an edge the world never sees coming. He's not running away from people, he's recalibrating from them. The Sigma knows that constant connection drains purpose. Every conversation, every distraction, every unnecessary commitment pulls energy from what truly matters. So he chooses solitude not because he dislikes people, but because he refuses to lose himself inside them. His alone time becomes his training ground, where he sharpens his focus, masters his mind, and transforms pain into precision. In isolation, he confronts what others avoid, his fears, insecurities, and ambitions. He studies them until they lose power over him. The world mistakes this distance for detachment, but in truth, it's refinement. Every time he walks away from chaos, he grows more efficient, more grounded, more untouchable. Because when no one else is influencing his thoughts, his decisions become pure, free from pressure, fear, or external noise. This is why his returns are always stronger than his exits. People notice when he disappears, but they're stunned when he comes back. Sharper, more confident, more unstoppable than before. Isolation doesn't weaken the Sigma, it reloads him. It strips away illusion and reminds him that self-reliance is the highest form of freedom. To a Sigma male, being alone isn't a void, it's a weapon. It's where he turns reflection into direction, silence into strength, and solitude into dominance. While the world fears the quiet, he thrives in it, because he knows one truth most will never understand. The man who masters isolation never needs permission to rise again. A redefined power through self-control. Most people think power comes from dominance, from the ability to intimidate or command attention. The Sigma male knows better. True power begins the moment you stop being ruled by your emotions. Where others explode, he exhales. Where others demand, he observes. His calm isn't passive, it's calculated. Every reaction he doesn't give becomes energy redirected toward mastery. In a chaotic world, his restraint becomes his rebellion, quiet, measured, and unstoppable. He understands that control isn't about suppressing feelings but about channeling them. Anger becomes focus, rejection becomes direction, pain becomes information. The Sigma male doesn't waste time on emotional fireworks that burn fast and fade. He converts that fire into fuel. His composure under pressure makes people uneasy, not because he's detached, but because he's unpredictable. You can't manipulate a man who refuses to react. This discipline wasn't inherited, it was built, forged, in silence, in failure, in the moments when losing control almost cost him everything. Through experience, he learned that every impulsive decision was a trade-off, temporary relief for long-term regret. So he rewired himself to respond with clarity, to lead himself first, and to master the space between stimulus and response. That's where his authority lives. People often mistake his calm for coldness, not realizing it's focus. He's not disconnected. He's deliberate. He chooses his battles with precision and his words like weapons. When chaos erupts, he doesn't match the noise, he studies it. Because the man who can stay still when the world shakes is the one who commands it. In the end, this is the Sigma's greatest paradox. He controls nothing except himself. And that's what makes him unstoppable. His power doesn't come from dominance over others, but from dominance over his own impulses. In mastering self-control, he becomes the one force that no system, no person, and no chaos can manipulate. In that quiet mastery, it's the kind of power that doesn't shout, it radiates. They earn respect by staying unbothered. The Sigma male doesn't chase respect. He attracts it through composure. In a world that glorifies loud opinions and impulsive reactions, he stands still. When others argue to prove dominance, he remains calm, observing how noise exposes insecurity. His silence isn't weakness, it's control. The more people try to provoke him, the more he withdraws into an unshakable calm. And that calm makes him magnetic. People sense it. They can't read him, can't rattle him, and that mystery demands respect more than any confrontation ever could. He's learned through experience that reacting gives power away. When he was younger, he might have defended himself, explained his side, or tried to prove his worth. But now he knows that every reaction feeds the very energy he's trying to avoid. So he does something few can. He stays unbothered. He lets insults die in silence, lets manipulation fall flat, and lets the world spin while he stands firm in self-mastery. This composure is not arrogance, it's awareness. He understands that chaos thrives on participation. Every argument, every emotional tug-of-war is an invitation to lose focus. The Sigma declines that invitation. Instead of fighting for control, he embodies it. People test him, mock him, misunderstand him, yet he never bends. And in a culture obsessed with validation, that kind of indifference is intimidating. What others call cold, he calls clarity. He doesn't need to react because he already knows the truth. Time exposes everything. So he lets patience do the talking. He stays focused on his mission, on building what lasts, while others exhaust themselves proving points that don't matter. Over time, people begin to notice. His calm wins where their noise fails. In the end, the Sigma male's respect doesn't come from charisma or charm. It comes from the energy he doesn't waste. The more unbothered he becomes, the more grounded his presence feels, and that quiet strength earns the kind of respect that can't be demanded, only recognized. Because in a world full of reactors, the man who stays still is the one everyone ends up watching. They don't compete, they outgrow. Competition is a game designed to distract. It keeps people running in circles, measuring their worth by someone else's progress. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. He rewrites it. While others chase comparison, he chases evolution. He knows that real power isn't proven through rivalry. It's built in silence, through consistency and relentless growth. From the outside, his indifference looks arrogant, like he doesn't care what anyone else is doing. But that's the secret. He truly doesn't. Competing requires comparison, and comparison requires distraction. Every ounce of attention spent on others is energy stolen from becoming your best self. The Sigma male understands this deeply. He's not trying to be better than anyone. He's trying to be unrecognizable to the man he was last year. There was a time when he compared, when he felt that twinge of envy or the urge to prove something. But experience taught him that competing in someone else's arena means playing by their rules. So he stepped out of the race entirely. He stopped showing up where noise mattered more than results and started building where no one was looking. And while others burn out fighting for validation, he grows quietly, sharper, wiser, and untouchable. Outgrowing is slower than winning, but it's permanent. It requires humility, discipline, and patience, qualities most people don't have because they're too busy seeking applause. The Sigma doesn't need to win arguments or prove his worth in front of an audience. He lets time reveal the difference between those chasing attention and those building legacy. In his world, competition doesn't exist. Only progression does. Every obstacle becomes a teacher. Every failure becomes fuel. Every setback becomes a strategy. He's not interested in trophies. He's interested in transformation, and by the time others realize he was never competing, he's already moved miles beyond them. That's the quiet power of the Sigma mindset. While the world runs in circles trying to outshine each other, he walks a straight line forward, mastering himself. Because once you stop competing, you stop losing. You simply outgrow everything that no longer matches your level. They speak less, but every word carries weight. The Sigma male doesn't waste words, he wields them. In a world addicted to noise, he speaks only when silence can no longer do the job. People talk to be heard, he talks to be understood. Every sentence he says is deliberate, every pause intentional. And that's what makes his voice powerful, not volume but precision. When he finally does speak, the room gets quiet, not because he demands attention, but because his energy already has it. He learned early that oversharing dilutes impact, that opinions are currency, and most spend theirs carelessly, so he began to conserve his. His silence isn't shyness, it's strength. It's the discipline of someone who knows that power comes from restraint. Every time he holds back a reaction, he's reminding himself who's really in control. When he does speak, it's never to prove something, it's to end confusion. People underestimate quiet men until they realize how deeply they listen. While others rush to fill silence, the Sigma male uses it to read tone, intention, and motive. He studies reactions before revealing his own thoughts. That patience creates a kind of psychological gravity. People start caring more about what he might say than what anyone else already did. His few words become landmarks in conversations that others forget seconds after speaking. His communication isn't random, it's tactical. He uses questions that expose truth, pauses that disarm manipulation, and phrases that land like quiet strikes. To him, language isn't for approval, it's for influence. And because he speaks with clarity, not ego, his words leave an echo long after he's gone. That's why people remember what he says, even when they wish they didn't. His tone carries certainty. His silence carries consequence. In a culture that confuses loudness with confidence, the Sigma male remains an anomaly, a man who doesn't need to dominate a conversation to own it. He doesn't argue, doesn't explain endlessly, and doesn't try to please. He just speaks the truth once and lets silence do the rest. They break rules, but never their code. The Sigma male doesn't rebel for attention. He breaks rules for alignment. To him, most rules are built to control the average, not to challenge the exceptional. He's not interested in following paths that were never meant for him. But what separates him from the reckless is principle. His defiance is precise, not chaotic. Every rule he breaks is measured, intentional, and backed by an internal code stronger than any external authority. From a young age, he noticed how society rewards obedience more than originality. People are praised for fitting in, not for questioning why things exist in the first place. But the Sigma was never built to blend. His mind constantly asks, does this make sense? If it doesn't, he doesn't follow. Teachers, bosses, even peers have called him difficult, detached, or rebellious, but he's none of those things. He's just awake. He refuses to trade authenticity for approval. His code is simple: integrity over image, purpose over popularity. He'll bend every rule that limits growth, but he'll never compromise his principles. He won't lie to gain advantage. He won't manipulate to climb higher. He won't betray himself just to belong. And because of that, his rebellion earns respect, not chaos. People may not understand his methods, but they can't ignore his results. Every Sigma male lives by a quiet paradox. He's both unpredictable and consistent. You can't guess what he'll do next, but you can trust that whatever he does will be aligned with his core values. His word is rare but unbreakable. His boundaries are firm but fair. And his silence? That's his signature, the calm before he changes the rules again. Not for ego, but for evolution. The truth is, the Sigma doesn't need permission to lead. He leads by example, proving that freedom without discipline is chaos, and discipline without freedom is slavery. He walks the line between both, untamed yet unwavering, independent yet grounded. That's why even those who envy him end up respecting him. Because in a world that worships conformity, he remains the man who moves differently. Never lawless, but never controlled. When the world follows rules to feel safe, the Sigma male follows his code to stay free. His strength doesn't come from defiance for its own sake. It comes from knowing exactly who he is, even when the world tries to tell him otherwise. That's why people fear him, envy him, and secretly wish they had the same courage to live unapologetically. Every decision he makes, every silence he keeps, every rule he bends, it all comes from clarity. He doesn't chase validation or rebellion, he chases alignment. And in that alignment lies a kind of power most will never experience, the power of being completely untouchable, because you answer only to yourself. If you've ever felt like you don't fit into the system, maybe you were never meant to. Maybe your purpose was to build your own. Subscribe for more deep psychological insights into the Sigma mindset, and tell me in the comments, do you follow the rules or your code?